Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tiny Matters with Dr. K. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about how I went from being my niece's favorite auntie to the dragon of the family. We're talking about pacifiers, dummies, soothers, nummies, or whatever your family calls them. Now, if you're listening to this while your toddler sits next to you with a dummy in their mouth, don't panic. This is a judgment-free zone because dummies have become less of a baby accessory and more like a member of the family. You buy extras. You know where they all are. You panic when one gets lost. And heaven help anyone who accidentally leaves the house without it. But sooner or later, every parent asks this question: when should my child stop using a dummy? And that's exactly what we're talking about today. So before we talk about stopping them, let's discuss why children love dummies so much. Babies are born with a natural sucking reflex. Long before they start to eat or drink, they know how to suck. Babies learn to suck from 28 weeks in the womb to 3 months after delivery. Sucking helps them feel calm, regulated, and safe. It's one of the many reasons why children settle so easily with a dummy. For some children, the comfort that comes with a dummy helps them with stress relief, illness, transitions, sleep, and unfamiliar environments. So when we ask a child to give up their dummy, we're not just taking away a piece of silicone. We are taking away one of their most important early coping mechanisms, which is why most children act like you've cancelled Christmas. Dummies often get a bad reputation, but like most things in parenting, they're not entirely bad or entirely good. In young babies, pacifiers can be extremely useful. They may help babies soothe, they may reduce crying, they may help some babies settle to sleep, and they may provide comfort during stressful situations such as immunizations or travel. There is also evidence that a pacifier during sleep can reduce the incidence of SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. Now, this doesn't mean that every single baby needs a pacifier, or that you should force your baby to use it even if they don't want to. But it does mean that it can be a helpful tool during infancy. So the conversation here isn't really, are dummies good or bad? The better question is, when does this useful tool become something that your child no longer needs? So when is it time to think about stopping? Many parents ask me for a specific age, but unfortunately for us, children rarely read the guidelines. Under general, we say for the first year of life, many children still use a dummy without any serious consequence. Between 1 to 2 years of age, many children can still use a dummy, but only for comfort and sleep. Between 2 to 4 years of age, most families are already thinking about reducing the use or stopping it completely. The goal here isn't to create panic on your child's second birthday. The goal is to help children gradually develop other ways of regulating their emotions and coping in stressful situations. So let's tackle one of the big myths. Do dummies cause speech delay? The evidence is actually more nuanced than many parents realize. A dummy will not automatically cause a speech delay. However, children learn language through interaction. They learn by listening, babbling, imitating words and conversation, experimenting with words, and copying sounds. If a child spends the majority of the day with a dummy in their mouth, these experiences become limited. A child cannot easily practice speech while sucking on a pacifier. So what concerns us is not the occasional nighttime use. It's the prolonged daytime use. A useful rule of thumb is, the more awake and interactive the child is with the environment, the less the need for a dummy in their mouth. So what about the teeth? This is where we have some of the strongest evidence. Prolonged pacifier use can increase the risk of changes in bite alignment, protrusion of the front teeth, open bite patterns, and narrowing of the upper jaw. Not every child develops these issues, and many of these improve once the habit stops. However, the risk increases with both intensity and duration of use. A child who occasionally uses the dummy for sleep is very different to one who constantly has a pacifier in their mouth. This is the one reason why many dentists encourage weaning the pacifier by 2 to 3 years of age. So what about thumb sucking? Parents often ask, should I take away the dummy, or will my child suck their thumb instead? Many professionals prefer the dummy over thumb sucking, and the reason is one. Eventually removing the dummy is fairly simple. Removing a thumb is considerably more complicated. Thumb sucking can cause the same dental concerns as the pacifier, but this habit is harder to break because the thumb is attached to the child. Let's have an honest moment. Sometimes the pacifier is helping the parent just as much as it's helping the child. It can help with bedtime, car rides, public meltdowns, flights, and shopping trips. After a long day, removing the one thing that reliably settles your child seems a bit like self-sabotage. If that is you, you're not alone. Almost every parent has reached a point where they know the dummy should go, but they're not quite ready to deal with the emotional consequences of weaning the pacifier. So how do you actually get rid of it? There is no perfect method, and I'll tell you my story. When my niece hit the age of 3 and had significantly delayed speech, one of the things I attributed to this was the dummy. I went where no one could go. I gently took her hand and we walked to the bin, threw the pacifier in the bin, waved goodbye and didn't look back. It all seemed to be working perfectly until the night struck. When the night came, all hell broke loose. I'm sure a lot of moms that are watching this podcast can relate to how that night went. Needless to say, nobody was speaking to me the next day. Here are several approaches that have been proven to work. Number 1, restricted to sleep. This is probably the gentlest method for weaning the pacifier. Gradually take it away during the day, but keep it with the baby at night. Many children become progressively less attached because it's no longer available during the day. Number 2, gradual reduction. Some families gradually reduce access to the pacifier over a couple of weeks. The dummy becomes bedtime only, gradually occasional, and then gone. This works well for those children who struggle with a sudden change. Number 3, the dummy theory. This tends to work well for children over the age of 2 years who have a full understanding of object permanence. The child gives their dummy away in exchange for a small toy. The key isn't the reward itself, it is allowing the child to participate in the process of saying goodbye. Number 4, cold turkey. For some families, not mine, one decisive goodbye says it best. The dummy disappears and does not return. This approach can be effective, but parents need to be prepared for the first few very difficult days. Consistency here is key. A few things are generally unhelpful. Shaming the child, teasing the child, taking the dummy away and then returning it again, comparing your child to other children, or taking the dummy away before they are developmentally ready. Mixed messages tend to prolong the process of pacifier weaning. Consistency shortens it. So when should you seek advice? If your child is heavily dependent on the pacifier beyond the preschool years, if there are concerns about speech, if there are dental concerns, if the dummy seems to replace normal coping mechanisms, and if attempts to wean have become extremely and increasingly difficult. So if your child still uses a dummy, I don't want you to leave this episode feeling despondent or guilty. Pacifiers have helped countless babies and toddlers through some very big feelings. The goal is not to create anxiety around something that has served your family and your home so well. The goal is simply to recognize when it's time to support your child and move on to the next developmental stage. And when the time comes to say goodbye to the dummy, I want you to remember that this time is often more difficult for the parents than it is for the child. Thank you for watching another episode of Tiny Matters with Dr. K. Until the next time, stay kind and stay curious.